is John Harbaugh holding back the Ravens?
This one's tough.
It's so weird to look at him and point the finger at him for the reason they lost. Derrick Henry fumbled the ball.
Brutal.
4th and 2.
Apparently Lamar had a hand.
He was cramping.
Yeah.
Allegedly, he was cramping. It's unfortunate the defense could not stop a top 2, maybe the best in the game in Josh Allen. Like, yes, you would ideally like to have gotten one stop. You gave up over 40 points. Not ideal. Your defense is way more talented than what it put forward. But you also went up against the MVP of the league. It happens. I'm not pointing the finger at John as to the reason they lost the game. That is a strong overreaction. They lost because their 2 best players, one made a mistake and fumbled, and the second wasn't physically able to be out there on the 4th down. Now, albeit, you are Lamar Jackson. If a fan came to me and said, yo, fight through it, I can hear where they're coming from. Game's on the line. You can win the game. It's one play, and then you take knees, and it's over. I can hear that. But it was a situation you were up 40-25. You should not have lost the game. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the Ravens had a 99.1% chance to win the game.
No, because Buffalo had a 0.9% chance to win.
There was a 99.9% chance for them to win at one point.
That's what I'm saying.
No, we're both
Either
correct.
or.
Okay.
We're both
99%
The
chance
Ravens should have won the game. It was a 99% chance they should have won the game.
5 minutes left.
And
Nuts.
Josh Allen happened. 17 happened. He went to a different universe. He threw for over 250 in the 4th quarter. He had 2 rushing touchdowns in the 4th quarter. A crazy tipped in the air touchdown to Keon Coleman, who had a great game in his own right. I'm not blaming John Harbaugh for this. I'm not blaming John Harbaugh for all their past failures either. I don't know why he continuously gets blamed because what? He's a special teams coordinator. That's his special trait that he has. Like how obviously you have the offensive minds like Ben Johnson and the Brian Flores are defensive minds. Because he's a special teams, you think that you want someone who'd come in and be a defensive guy or an offensive guy. Relax. He's had an insane amount of success. He's one of the guys that knows how to galvanize his team the best. You lost because you got outperformed by a superhuman quarterback. It happens.
Yeah. Sorry, Riv. My bad, bro. You guys right here.
He's ready. That's a bad season. That's a down year. Look at that. That's a down year.
I think this isn't the first time it's come up, right? Like,
no.
Ravens fans have been saying it for really multiple years now that he should be fired, that they should move on. I think I agree with Drew, though. I think it is an overreaction because I don't know how you really blame John in this case, right? You're up 40-25, like we mentioned, with 4.5 minutes to go, and you have the Bills 4th down in the red zone. Get a stop, the game's over. You have another opportunity where it's 4th and short. You have an offense that's been humming all game, whether it's passing or running the ball. You play conservative and you punt the ball. I think that's the one area you can look at, John, and be like, this is probably your choice, right? I'm not 100% sure, but I'm 99% sure that is his choice at the end of the day. Do we go for it or not? If Lamar's cramping, let's call a timeout. Because I do not want to put the ball in Josh Allen's hands to win the game.
I agree.
If it so happens that we don't get the 4th down, right? Then the Bills have the ball on our 30 or 40 yard line. You still need to hold them, right? You still have those timeouts. You still need to hold them to at least 3. The worst case scenario happened though. You punted the ball back, they killed the clock, kneeled it, and then kicked a field goal. So you had no chance to come back if they didn't have the shoestring tackle at the end by
let him score.
Exactly. The shoestring tackle by Jair lets Coleman goes down at the 5 or 10 yard line, whatever. If you would have scored a touchdown, you would have had at least some time, even though it would have been a long shot. You would have had a chance to go down and score. It was just, Josh Allen happened. Like you said, Drew, Josh Allen happened. He had an all-time performance in the 4th quarter. He did more in the 4th quarter than 90% of the quarterbacks in the league did their entire week one game.
A whole game in a quarter.
So I think he gets blamed because, like Drew mentioned, he doesn't really have a side of the ball, right? Like, he is not an offensive-minded coach or defensive-minded coach. So when these things kind of merge where, like, you know what, Derrick Henry fumbled. I thought in the second half they got away from Derrick Henry too.
I agree with that.
Second quarter, Derrick Henry had 100 rushing yards. And then the 3rd quarter, it was a lot of Justice Hill. They were getting into some more passing down situations. It was when Hill comes out onto the field. But Derrick Henry was just doing whatever he wanted. And I know they were committing more to the box. The Bills were to try to slow down the rushing attack. But man, it just felt like offensively they lost their identity bit in the second half. I feel like that's more on Todd Monken than it is on John.
I'm sorry, Riv, to add one more thing to that. The passing game was being successful as well.
Yeah.
Zay Flowers had an awesome game. D-Hop makes what could already be catch of the year. Him and Isaac Tesla are going to be battling for that already. the passing attack was working.
It was.
You had 2 drives the whole game. It just unfortunately had to be the last 2 drives of the game that cost you.
Yeah.
In fourth quarter since 2019, Baltimore's defense has the 5th worst passer rating allowed, 6th worst EPA per pass, and the highest explosive pass rate allowed.
Tough look.
Jeez.
And that's across multiple different DCs.
Yeah.
That's across multiple, obviously, different personnel.
I'll say this. I'm in on it, not because John is a bad coach. That's John, right?
Yeah.
I said it's John. Okay, not because John is a bad coach. I don't think he's a bad coach by any means. I think, Drew, a lot of what you said is correct. I do think just because he does, I think he's a really good decision maker. I think at times, this team does fumble a lot in those moments. I think a lot of it is because they let their foot off the gas. I think that's the issue. In the first half, you saw this team, kind of be dominant in the run game, kind of feed off the play action. Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers, the connection was there. You saw Derrick Henry break off run after run. There was really nothing Buffalo can do but hope and pray they get a turnover. And that's how they were winning games last year with this defense, just getting turnovers, and hopefully that works. And then in the second half, it felt to me like they were a little bit complacent. They were a little bit too relaxed, and I felt like going into that second half, you should have kept your foot on the pedal. You should have put boot on neck and really dominate them. I say I'm in because I think you hit a point in your franchise where, you have that coach that brings you to a certain point and you need an elevator. Like, how, the Golden State had Mark Jackson, but they needed that Steve Kerr to make that next leap. And I think Baltimore is kind of at that point where we've seen this team be dubbed the most talented roster in football, maybe the last 3 seasons. And it feels like every year it becomes, all right, this is the most talented team. Lamar continues to get better. They get Derrick Henry, what was that, 2 years ago? Mm-hmm. They got Jair last year in the offseason. They picked up Roquan Smith, I think that was like 3 years ago in a trade. And then in the draft, they got Mike Green. They got Malachi Starks.
Nate Wiggins.
Nate Wiggins. They start drafting really good players. Matabuke turned into one of the best D tackles in football. This team continues to, Kyle Hamilton they got in the draft, and he became the best safety in football. So this team drafts well, for the most part on the defensive side. This team has Lamar, who elevates his game, brings in Derrick Henry, who doesn't seem to age. And it just feels like they're dubbed like how Chicago wins the offseason every year. It feels like the Ravens win we're the best team in the league. We're the most talented team. I think I'm in because I do think at some point you kind of just need a different guy to come in and just be a different elevator.
Have they missed on a draft pick? Like, I'm really trying to think about it. Lamar Jackson was the last pick in the first round. Zay Flowers was a good first-round draft pick. Rashad Bateman, maybe a little bit underwhelming for being a first-round draft pick, but we know as a podcast, he is a talented football player. The offensive line, Linderbaum is one of the best centers in football. Rosengarten is a solid right tackle as well. Staley is a great left tackle, maybe not the player that he once was. This is a team that has historically drafted very, very well. It's situationally down the stretch of these games. Maybe that's where I can compromise and hear out some of these fans where that's where you need to be at your best, and sometimes the Ravens aren't. For majority, we see this team be dominant year in, year out. And a week 1 loss when a guy goes superhuman, I can't overreact.
I think it's over for Harbaugh if he doesn't win this year. I think he's going to get... I don't know if they're going to go as far to fire him, but I feel like it's something you got to seriously consider, because how many times have we sat here and said that the Ravens have the most talented roster in the AFC? How many times have people picked against the Chiefs in an AFC championship game with the Baltimore Ravens, and then they end up losing? I'm looking at one guy right here. Yeah, it's happened before. And at this point, this is 3 years in a row where the Ravens, you can say that's the off-season pick to represent the AFC, because you look at their roster compared to Buffalo, compared to Kansas City, and you say that's a better roster top to bottom. And Lamar Jackson has played well in the playoffs over those last 2 years. When you look at the facts of John Harbaugh,
I'm surprised.
I did not see that coming.
He hasn't played better than Josh Allen or Mahomes, but Lamar has played well. Yes.
Hey, easy.
Sorry.
Right.
Lamar has played well, but he hasn't played better than those 2 guys. He didn't outplay Mahomes in the AFC Championship game.
My bad.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. In the AFC Championship, did he outplay Mahomes? No, he did not. He did.
Fumbles,
He didn't outplay him. He didn't.
Leave Josh out of this.
I'm looking at the Ravens, and I'm looking at John Harbaugh. He has the most blown double-digit lead since 1991 for a head coach.
Doc Rivers, bro.
And over the last 10 years, he has the most double-digit blown leads in the fourth quarter. Number 2 is Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan,
You could argue is worse.
Kyle Shanahan is a little bit different because I think 2019 Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't have one of the worst games of the season. They could beat the Chiefs in that game. And also Mahomes just made some spectacular throws along with Tyreek Hill.
The Eagles just traded for Tank Bigsby.
That's a really good move for them.
Who?
Tank Bigsby. That means
Eagles?
ETN's by himself. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
ETN to the moon.
That means Bates with Tuin is going to have a role on the team.
That's
Probably the Will Shipley role.
Tuin?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of Tank.
Oh, no.
I thought you said Tank.
He'll probably have a bigger role, I think, than that. But that's
Lord have
he
mercy.
wasn't playing much with the Jaguars anyway.
No.
Week 1, they didn't use him much.
Well,
that makes sense.
That's unfortunate that news broke right now because that was going to be a player. I was going to talk about Travis Etienne today because he deserved it.
He did play really well. So I'm looking at John Harbaugh. He has all these blown leads with Kyle Shanahan. I feel like what saves him is that he has one side of the ball figured out. But I think even Niners fans are getting a little bit fed up with all the injuries on the team, with the undisciplined play of the team. Jake Moody is 12 for 23 on his field
I don't know
goals
how he's
since
employed.
week 10 of last season. The special teams looks like it's still a disaster again, and that's everything a head coach has to oversee. With John Harbaugh, he doesn't excel at one side of the ball. The defense, since Mike Macdonald left to Seattle, has dropped off. With Mike Macdonald, this was a historic level defense. This was a defense that was first in DVOA. If you measure every defense since 2000, the 2023 Ravens are near the top, if not number 1, in terms of DVOA. That's how historic they were. And when you don't have a coach that excels at either side of the ball, yes, you oversee game plans, but everything you're talking about, the offense going away from Derrick Henry, the defense playing a certain way, I mean, that's all on John Harbaugh's watch. When you're the head coach, you have complete control of the team and you have to oversee what goes on. In 2023 in the AFC Championship game, they did not run the ball against Kansas City. That was something that you look to and say you have Derrick Henry and you're not utilizing a run against, at that point, a weak Chiefs run defense. All of that is under John Harbaugh's watch. And you have an all-time quarterback right now on your hands with Lamar Jackson. You have a great and talented roster. If John Harbaugh doesn't get it done, I don't see why the Ravens keep prolonging this. You got to bring somebody in. That's it. You got to bring somebody in that you think could be better and that can elevate the team. And maybe even after 2023, they should have made the tough decision and say, let's make Mike Macdonald the head coach. Because Mike Macdonald would have been a great successor to John Harbaugh, and that defense would have still ranked towards the top to this day.
I think
Brock Purdy might not play on Sunday.
Yeah, I did see that. I think that's a perfect statement.
It's the Saints.
Because when I think about what the Ravens need to be more disciplined on is their defense. And the year that they were, to at least you and I, the favorites in the AFC, the best attribute of theirs, yes, of course, Lamar was MVP that season, but the defense was by far the best in the league, one of the best we've seen in a while. That being said, you had a perfect successor. You needed a guy that has the defensive mindset. Now you go and look at Seattle. The performance that they just had versus the Niners was excellent. McCaffrey was definitely effective in the passing game, but he averaged less than 4 yards a carry on the ground. They did a great job of limiting him. McDonald, we understand, is defensive genius. We look at Monken and think, there is nothing wrong with the offense right now. We have nothing to fix. We have one of the best running backs in the game. We have a top 3, top 2 quarterback in the league in Lamar Jackson. Our weapons are not the greatest.
They're good enough.
Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews, Rashad Bateman, when Isaiah Likely's healthy, our offensive line's really great. We have nothing to worry about the offense. It's, can the defense bear down in a situation when we need it to? I think that's a great statement.
It's just you have to have, like, it. The grass isn't always greener, right? Like, you have such a safe baseline right now that's
true.
basically like the last couple of years, you're at least winning a playoff game. And of course, when you're the Ravens and you're first seeing MVP and whatnot, it's more than just winning a playoff game, but it's to a lesser extent. But Steelers fans asking for Mike Tomlin to be fired, I think that might be more valid because they're flaming out in the first round and there's really no consistency on the offensive side of the ball. But it's so easy for these fan bases to be like, fire Tomlin, fire John. There is probably 20 fan bases that would fire their head coach right now to hire one of those guys.
100%.
So part of it is you do need new blood sometimes to really get over the hump, but you better be sure that the guy you're bringing in is at a minimum going to do what you have been doing for John basically since he's gotten Baltimore.
That's a fact.